This video is brought to you by Greenman Gaming. Click the link below to see some amazing deals on some incredible games. Every purchase goes towards helping the channel. I grew up playing games in the PlayStation 2 and original Xbox era. It may be a little bit of Nintendo 64 as well for good measure, but I have a lot of fond memories of games from that era and the PlayStation 3 and Xbox 360 era, but you get the idea. Playing a lot of like brand new games recently, I gotta say something, and I don't think it's a hot take. I just think older games were better. I think older games were better than what we're getting nowadays. And I know it is almost entirely nostalgia based to an extent, but I don't know, I've played some older games that I didn't grow up with, and I do end up coming out preferring them over the newer, more modern games. And this video is basically me trying to convince some of you to go back and play some older games, you know, don't just stick to the new modern stuff that's being churned out. I say churned out, we have gotten some very good games this year, but you get the idea. You should go back and play some older games, especially older games from sequels. It's something that I try and strive to do a lot nowadays. Like if a brand new game comes out that is like the 5th game in a series, I'll play it, and if I enjoy it, I'll get intrigued on the previous entries and go back and play them as well. A good example of this was when I played Dark Souls 3 back in 2016. I loved Dark Souls 3. I was obsessed with Dark Souls 3. I've clocked in almost, let me check here, almost 500 hours, and a lot of that was just making new characters, being summoned by people, helping them fight bosses, introducing my friends to the series, all that good stuff. But because I loved the game, I thought I would go back and play Dark Souls 1, which is something I originally didn't enjoy, and after beating Dark Souls 1, it is my favorite game in the entire Dark Souls franchise. I even prefer it over Elden Ring. Let me explain. Older games just had so much more charm to them, if that makes sense. Like Dark Souls 1 was incredibly jank, it had a lot of problems, but you had this feeling that the developers were trying something new, and it felt like back then developers could do that. They could take more risks, they could be more passionate about the risks they were taking, and sometimes those risks wouldn't pay off. There's a lot of old games that have very confusing design choices that aren't in sequels for very good reasons, but I'm happy that I can experience these ideas and risks that clearly had passion put behind them, and they weren't just ideas that were made to appease the shareholders like a lot of new games do nowadays. Fucking adding storefronts, that being the fucking risk nowadays that they do. Adding a storefront to a single player game. I'm looking at you, Dying Light 2, you silly Techland. Another brilliant example, I think, is Devil May Cry 5. A lot of people are coming into the Devil May Cry series from Devil May Cry 5 and the fuck-ass Netflix show, but I'm not going to talk about that. But yeah, a lot of people, they're playing Devil May Cry 5. They're absolutely loving it. But not a lot of them are going back and playing the older games, which does confuse me because, yeah, Devil May Cry 5 streamlines everything. It has probably the best gameplay in the series. Dante is at his peak perfection in that game, but I will always prefer something like Devil May Cry 3. Hell, I even prefer Devil May Cry 1 to Devil May Cry 5. And that is because Devil May Cry 1 was something new. If you didn't already know, or you live under a rock or something, because it's talked about all the time, Devil May Cry 1 was originally supposed to be Resident Evil 4, but it was so drastically different to what a Resident Evil game was, it got spun off into Devil May Cry. And that just doesn't happen nowadays at all. And when you go back to Devil May Cry 1, you can still feel those Resident Evil elements. Like, the game just oozes with atmosphere, and it even has some horror elements to it, and you can still feel this as you go through the games. Even in Devil May Cry 2 there is some weird spooky shit, but I think the scariest thing about that game is how fucking dog shit it is. Devil May Cry 3 I think is the ultimate combination of this, and it is one of the best games I've ever played, and that game came out in the early 2000s. And nothing has managed to top it. No other action game has managed to top a game from 2005. And yeah, Devil May Cry 3 has a lot of flaws. It's got a lot of bosses that make me want to blow my brains clean out whenever I have to refight them on a replay, but man, I love playing this game. I have a 1 hour and 20-minute video on it, by the way, on my main channel. There'll be a little info box thing at the top and an end screen if you want to check it out. But obviously sometimes you go back to older games and you don't actually enjoy them because of the older jank and the fact older games do not hold your hand and they're just far more challenging, which in a way is quite good because it feels like it respects the player a lot more. Like they don't just assume that like you're brain dead and you need yellow paint splattered everywhere, and accessibility. Well, accessibility is a good thing, don't get me wrong. I am really happy that games nowadays are way more inclusive, but there's something about these older games, the raw challenge they have, like, you really need to learn the game's mechanics to get into them. And yeah, that can put a lot of people off, but it heavily depends on the older game, obviously. Devil May Cry 3 absolutely kicks my ass when I play it, and I love that, but a good example is Resident Evil 1 Remake. I don't like Resident Evil 1 Remake, and I played it recently. I didn't like how obtuse the puzzles felt. I didn't like how the game felt as a whole. You know, I get it was an older game, fixed camera angles were like the huge thing back then. It was a technical limitation. But despite the fact I didn't enjoy it, I still really respect the experience I had, and there is a part of me that still wants to go back and play Resident Evil 1. There isn't a part of me that wants to go back and play Resident Evil 9 though, and I think it's just because Resident Evil 1 has that challenge, that charm. There's a part of me that wants to go back and try and conquer that. And I want to see what the developers put into that game back then. Again, they had a lot more passion. I'm not saying they're not passionate now. You know, we get games like Hi-Fi Rush and stuff. That game was a pure passion project that got the studio shut down because it was too much passion, too much creativity. That's not allowed at Microsoft. But like a really good example, I think, when it comes to older games being better are studios that are absolutely hated. They used to make good games. A good example, Ubisoft. Everyone hates Ubisoft right now. Everyone despises Ubisoft. You know, Far Cry 6 is one of the most mind-numbingly boring experiences you can have. Assassin's Creed Shadows is pretty miserable too. But their older game catalog was just so good. I mean, they had stuff like, what, Rayman Origins? That game, it just drips with the passion. There's so, like, look at it. Just look at the game. It looks incredible. The levels are amazing, the mechanics are great, it's fun to run through. Same goes for Rayman Legends, and even older Assassin's Creed games, you know, the Ezio trilogy. Whilst I haven't played it yet, so many people rave about this trilogy, and there's probably a very good reason for that people care more about the Ezio trilogy than any of the other Assassin's Creeds. Hell, even Far Cry. People love Far Cry 3, and even Far Cry 2, you know, people sing the praises of Far Cry 2 all the time. Ubisoft used to be a pretty unstoppable machine back then. Oh, and I also can't forget Splinter Cell. Ubisoft made Splinter Cell, right? That shit rivals Metal Gear Solid, supposedly, so I don't know what the fuck they're doing with that IP. But this leads nicely onto another reason why I think older games are better, and I think a lot of these studios also think that older games are better because remakes and remasters of these older games are just so abundant right now. A good example, Assassin's Creed Black Flag Resynced, that came out recently, and people are absolutely loving it. And do you want to know why that is? Because it's just Assassin's Creed Black Flag again. They didn't actually change that much, aside from the combat, and actually they changed quite a bit of it, but the story and that passion is still there from the original game, so people like it. Hell, they're remaking Rayman Legends as well, also including fucking Rayman Origins Enhanced Edition with the game, which, I'm sorry guys, I bought that. I want to play Rayman Origins again. That game is so fun. Hell, I'd say the only outlier of this is Capcom with their Resident Evil remakes, because they changed so much within them that they basically are their own standalone games at that point. Even Halo, right? As of the recording of this video, Halo Campaign Evolved is all I see on Twitter right now. And a lot of it is people glazing it and saying it's crap. But then again, it's Halo fans we're talking about here, but Halo fans kind of hate everything past Halo 3, so... But yeah, it's a complete ground-up remake of Halo 1. A game that plays incredibly well already and is easily accessible through the Master Chief Collection. You could buy that shit right now for less than $10. And you even get multiplayer included. You don't get it in Campaign Evolved. I can't really speak much on Campaign Evolved. I haven't actually played it yet. I am gonna be playing it and making a review for this channel, but I got the standard edition, so I can't play it early like everyone else. So I can imagine there will be some sections that I will definitely prefer in the original, because that's another thing about older games. The older graphical style and the limitations meant they had to push for a more interesting art style than graphical fidelity. An obsession with these remakes now is just graphical fidelity. They kind of neglect the art style. You can tell the difference, except one stands out way more than the other, and you think about it more. And it kind of makes me dread a possible Devil May Cry 3 remake, because that game has an incredible art style. I absolutely love how that game looks, and Devil May Cry 5 does not have a good art style at all. It just looks hyper realistic because of the RE engine, and I'm afraid to say that if they remake Devil May Cry 3, it will just go for that hyper realistic style and kind of neglect the art style that made that game so visually memorable. And the same goes for any old game. Remakes just don't do them justice half the time. Yeah, they look amazing fidelity-wise, but art style-wise, nah. Older games just have that in the bag. So much better. But yeah, that's just my opinion on all of this. Just wanted to make this little ramble to say you should go and try some older games, especially if you've gotten into games recently and you've been playing a bunch of remakes or a sequel to an existing series. Hop on Steam, go back, and check out some older games. Maybe even check Green Man Gaming, you know, they might have a lot of them on sale on there. There's a link below if you want to check them out for yourself. And yeah, thank you all so much for watching. I hope you really enjoyed this little ramble, and I hope I've convinced some of you to check out some older games like Devil May Cry 3. That game's amazing. Before I go, I just want to give a huge thank you to my Patreon supporters. I really appreciate you guys. You make this channel happen. That I don't know what else to say about that, really. Thank you guys so much. I really appreciate it. And I will be doing something for you guys soon. Same goes to the channel members. I'm going to be doing some member exclusive content. It's not going to be anything like huge, like a massive list video. Although maybe, I don't know, I might do a top games of all time video that might be member exclusive. I don't know, just let me know what you guys would like to see. It can even be like, I don't know, a fucking cooking video that I make member exclusive, like how I make beans on toast or some shit. I don't know, I'm just fucking spitballing here. Thank you guys so much for your support, and I'll see you all in the next video.